What's going on, guys? My name is James Reed. I'm here from affordablepatio.com, which is our installation business, Patio SEO, which is our marketing company. And the best part is, guys, I'm a hardscaper.
What's happening, hardscapers? This is episode 122 of the How to Hardscape podcast, where we talk about how you can start and grow your hardscaping business. And on today's episode, we have another I Am a Hardscaper interview, where we bring on a hardscape business owner and do a deep dive into their business. And today we've got James Reed, owner of Affordable Patio, and you can also find him on Instagram at Road to 100Ms. And on this interview, we get into a wide variety of topics besides what we get into for most I Am a Hardscaper interviews. So there's a lot of good stuff in this episode. But before we get to it, we want to thank our sponsors, Cycle CPA. If you're looking for bookkeeping, accounting, CFO services, reach out to cycle_CPA on Instagram or www.cyclecpa.com. Let them know How to Hardscape sent you for $200 off their services there. And if you're looking to add another service to your hardscaping business, I'd recommend outdoor lighting. And if you're looking to add outdoor lighting to your business, check out Inlight Outdoor Lighting at INLITE Design. That's Inlight Design on Instagram. Get that conversation started there by shooting them a message, or at least follow them to get some inspiration from their page there. And without further ado, let's get into today's episode with James. All right, James, let's get started to get to know a little bit more about you, yourself, how you got started in this industry. Pick up wherever you want to start and end wherever you want to end. But what's the beginning of James in this industry?
First of all, Mike, thank you so much for having me on. I greatly appreciate this. So I was, just like a lot of people, got into it. I was a grass cutter doing lawn maintenance. I started when I was 19 years old. I worked at an ice cream place, and the guy would come and cut the lawn, and I would have to pay him the bill for each store. So I was like, wow, he did this ice cream store in like 5 minutes, because it was only a little grass and a blowing in the parking lot. And it was $35. My position at the ice cream place, I ran 5 of them, and my days wouldn't start till 11 or 12 o'clock. So I was like, hey, I could start cutting grass, and I'll do these 5 locations, and I'll make making this up $100 a week. So I'm starting to do that. Took my brother's lawnmower, blower, started to do that. Then we made like $200 in one day, and I was like, this is game changing. Like, this is incredible. So then we started getting into doing grass cutting. My first employee I had was awful at landscaping. Didn't know how to do anything. No grass, no weed whacking, no lawnmower. But he goes, oh, I know how to do brick. I know how to do pavers. So I was like, I learned really quick. Every guy knows how to do everything until they actually do it. He actually knew how to do brick. So then our second, he did one job. He did one for my parents. By year 3, he stopped cutting grass because it was awful. We actually laid him off because it wasn't worth it. The next year, we brought him back to try to do brick. Then we started doing that, and we loved it. I thought I was making more money, but I actually wasn't, because I didn't know how to price. I didn't know anything. All I knew is that guy knew what to do. Then I started going to YouTube University, watching as many videos as I possibly can. Our Cambridge, Unilock, Techoblock, they had all the shows. So I'd go to all the shows, and I wasn't nervous at 21, 22 to ask any question. I am a very honest, very vulnerable person. And I didn't know something, I'd raise my hand and ask. And after, they were like, hey, James, at the end, we'll answer your questions, because no one wanted to hear all my questions. They wanted to just keep going with the show. And so we got into the patio, starting installing it, doing big, elaborate designs. Everything was great on paper, looked great. I was living like the dream. I bought a nursery, sell plants. So this was all happening at age like 22 to 25. Little did I know, I had no idea what I was actually doing. I had no idea my overhead, pricing. I didn't know how to hire the right people. I was just a young gun going 100 hours a week, actually losing money. I had a partner stealing money from me. IRS froze all my bank accounts because I wasn't paying sales tax. Again, I had no idea. I don't come from this background. My dad's a mechanic. I had no idea. I was just wheeling and dealing, going out there trying to do whatever. And IRS froze all my accounts. I was $20,000 in credit card debt, $30,000 in debt to friends and family, because I started the nursery. And, on the outside, I looked like I figured it out. So people had no problem helping me. then when you start to get resources like that in, you notice that you don't have it figured out when I had to start paying people back. So then when this all fell apart, all my equipment got stolen. They cut open every single trailer and stole every piece of equipment. I had a not brand new truck, but a truck I was making payments on that was sitting in the parking lot, but because the motor blew, I didn't have enough money to pay for it. So all this stuff happening was the best thing for me because then I had that, I hit hardship that I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. So I asked for help. So someone like you is amazing because like I needed someone like you to say, hey, I need help. I need to figure this all out. So now my passion still, still in the patio business, still installing. Now one of my biggest passions is to help and as many guys as I possibly can. My mentor was in finance, so it wasn't relatable. He's like, what do you mean when it rains, you don't work? What about what do you mean about DOT? What do you mean? So like my passion now is to help guys in our industry and kind of bring that mentoring and education over, but talking like contractors to each other because my mentor changed my whole life, but it took a little bit longer because I didn't understand systems and processes.
Yeah.
So that's a little bit about me and getting in the industry, and then obviously we'll dive into it more.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've got tons of follow-up questions already here. So fairly lots of people kind of start in that lawn care side of things before coming over to the hardscape side of things. When you fall on hardships and when you're kind of resetting, where do you go from there? Do you dive right back into hardscape specifically, or do you dabble back into lawn care? Do you nursery? Like you had a few different avenues to go down. So where does that story kind of pick up?
All right. So little going back to the last story. So I was cutting the guy's lawn, my mentor. He was my first customer I ever had. He owed me $300, like $100 for each month of lawn maintenance, because you're talking about like 12 years ago. And he never paid his bill just because he was a younger guy who just would never check his mail and write checks out. He didn't do that. You just text them and go get the money. So I text them, hey, can I swing by to pick up the $300? I knocked on the door. He's like, hey, James, how's it going? And I started bawling out crying because I needed that $300 to pay the guys. Everything was falling apart. That's where me being honest and vulnerable opened the door for him. His story was way worse. Foreclosed on his 2 houses. Like his story made me feel like nothing, which made me feel like it wasn't that bad. We sat in his backyard. He said, what's your most profitable, scalable item? So I was like, well, I'm not making much with lawns, but I really make nothing because I have to wait 4 weeks for it. So he's like, okay, wait, you have no money and you have to wait 4 to 6 weeks for your no money. He's like, that doesn't make sense. I'm like, wow, when you put it like that, it doesn't make sense because of the situation I was in. Right. If you had money, it's easy then, but the current situation. So then I was telling about the nursery where we would make a lot of money and then the season would drop and we'd make nothing. And then we would do Christmas trees and then do nothing again over the winter because we're in the Northeast in New York. It's seasonal. So then he's like, wow, that doesn't make sense either. And it's so funny. And this is really relatable for you too. Like just as someone else stating the obvious, because we're so close-minded into our operation that sometimes we skip over the common sense things. And then I was like, hey, I'm doing these big designs, but I need to be there. And it's really detailed and customers are nitpicking and it feels like it's never ending. And that week it rained. So it was like so much mud and it was just bad. I'm like, but when I do these 20 by 20s or these 20 by 30 patios, like I don't need to be there. Everyone's happy. It's a cutless patio. It's great. He goes, this is all in one conversation. He goes, all right, so there's your answer. I'm like, there's my answer. And then I started creating everything because my cash flow was strong. My profit was strong. And then it was really easy to hire the right people to scale very quickly because cash flow is more important than profit. Because if you're only going to making this up, I say, hey, Mike, you're going to make 10 grand, but you have to wait 2 months, or I'll give you 8 grand and you're going to make the money now. Most people pick the 8 grand because that's what cash flow is. So it keeps everything moving. So me figuring this out just helped improve and scale our company because of the increase of cash flow and the great profitability.
So you talked about the drop off in business with the nursery. And yep. I think that kind of foreshadows today what you're doing, where in the drop off, I assume, of business come wintertime in the hardscape, you've transitioned to also doing Christmas lights, correct?
Yep. Yep.
Is
Christmas
that
lights and a little snow, but
in
mainly Christmas lights.
is that kind of based on that same logic of the nursery dropping in business, so you're picking up
Yes.
another service to be able to fill in that?
It, exactly. So I love the Christmas lights. I didn't know if we were going to talk about it, but
Okay.
the Christmas lights is great because we start to slow down and then we get that huge jolt of business. And that business is almost 30 to 45% net profit, but it's only 1 month. So,
Right.
like, you have to work hard, you have to go crazy, you have to work Sunday, you have to put in the time. But for us, what was great is then we get all that money in January and we weren't working. So now my company had all that cash over the winter to spend for marketing for the spring. We're at such a large size that we have like 12 full-time employees even over the winter months. Actually, with our marketing end, we're at like 22. So having that cash had us keep going. So we had the money to keep everything going. Before Christmas lights, we would, like most guys, we kind of run dry over the winter because if it didn't snow or it snowed, it takes 45 days. Well,
Right.
we only have 2 3 months of winter. 45 days it's spring. I don't need the money in the spring. I need it now to survive. So the Christmas lights is what we filled in for that 1 month.
Absolutely. And then, so I assume, being that with snow coming and you're able to do Christmas lights, that the Christmas lights, like you said there, the profit is more than hardscape to kind of pull guys off a
Oh
hardscape
yeah.
to do the Christmas lights.
Yes. So my size company, we only profit anywhere from 8 to 12%. But people are going to be blown away like, oh my God, that guy does nothing. He doesn't know what he's talking about. My salary as the CEO is in my overhead. So, like, that's what my business pure net profits is if I'm an investor. Only other reason it's a little bit lower too is we're always reinvesting. So, like, we're growing the company and reinvesting. Where the Christmas lights is literally 35 to like 45% net because think about hardscaping if you didn't have to pay for material and all the brick was already pre-cut because after the first year all the houses are pre-made, so to put them up is much faster. So quick example, you guys do this amazing design, imagine all the cuts were already labeled, you already put it in, it was already excavated. So that's why it's so profitable because the lights are already paid for and all we're doing is just installing. So that's why the margins are so big. And every year you've already done the house, so it's much quicker. Everything's labeled, so that's why the margins are so great. But it's only 4 to 6 weeks, so
Gotcha.
it's you just got to hit grand slams over and over and over again.
Gotcha. Any difficulties with employees being afraid of heights that you definitely want to hold on to in the
Yeah.
hardscape crew?
Well, so what we do is we're operating anywhere for 3 to 4 crews. What we do is we always have at least 1 or 2 crews running for the hardscape, and
Okay.
all the guys that are scared or not for it are staying on the hardscape. But a lot of the guys that aren't scared with the heights love it because it's a little more joyful. Like it's more joyful. It's happy. You're not lifting the brick, and again, it's only 4 weeks.
Yeah.
So and they also get tips. Clients are very happy, like because it's the holiday season. So those guys love the Christmas, and then they get back to the hardscape, and then we usually stop like around Christmas with the hardscape. So very beneficial for us, especially this year's much slower than other years. We'll actually slow our brick down for that whole month and a half. So then all those additional work, then we feed it at the end. So our season's a tiny bit longer. We stop no matter what because our profitability drops during those winter months. Things are
Right.
frozen, things are muddy. You have to heat up the sand or you have to heat up the base. It's just where we live, it's just not worth it. We have all the data to figure out that, hey, I'd rather do that job in March than try to be doing it in the winter.
So you did mention profit percentage there, and like any good business owner, you mentioned also that takes away your salary because a lot of people forget to do that with their profit and think that profit is their salary. And I always think that, like, percentage wise, you doing your own numbers is more important than looking at somebody else's numbers and being like, oh, 8 to 12%. But you could be paying yourself $1 million salary and that's coming out, right?
Exactly.
So,
Exactly.
anything else that you want to touch on in reinvesting, especially your money, so that also
Yep.
reduces your profit. Can we talk about that a bit?
Yeah, sure. So that's one big thing I always recommend for guys is to have your salary in there, is because this year is much slower, but I'm still getting paid my salary. So my mortgage, all the things that I have are taken care of. So when I say this year's slower, I'm saying it more as the investor of my business, meaning my profit won't be as big, but I'm still a W-2 employee that gets a great salary for all the work that I'm doing for my company. So for me, it's very important because I, as an employee for affordablepatio.com, I'm still taken care of. Where I also am the investor, but you never know. We're going to sell our company in the next 10 or 15 years. Like they're going to hire another CEO. So he'll take my salary and then I'll just be on the investment side. So that's huge. I recommend that for everyone. For guys that aren't paying themselves yet, do what I did. I started with 300 a week. So then at the end of the month, you have 1,200. You're going to notice that your business is not going to notice the 300. Then you up it to 5. Then you up it to 8 and just keep upping it. And you're going to notice that your business still survives with paying you that. The other thing I love about it is if you ever need to cut back, you could cut back on your salary. Where if you're not paying yourself, you have nowhere to cut because you're already not paying yourself.
Yeah.
So that's one thing I really like about that as well. And then it also helps with like we own real estate. We could get trucks. We could get all these things because I'm a W-2 employee. Where some guys, it's like, oh man, you're not making any money on like the government sees that you're not making. So for us, that really, that really, really helped. And then reinvesting, we own Patio SEO, which is a marketing company that we only specialize in patio people. That's it. So if you were a roofer and wanted us to do your marketing, your advertising, Google, Facebook, our hyper-focused stuff, our website building, SEO, we only do it for patio people. I actually turned people down. And the reason is we know what works. I'm not going to show you another client's like data like other marketing companies do. I'm going to be like, I'll show you that and I'll show you mine. So obviously what I'm doing is my money that I want to show you guys, like making this up. We spent 3,600 on Google in our county. Obviously what I'm showing you is going to work because it's my money too. And that's really relatable. That's why we started that end of the company, is because other Google guys or other Facebook guys or other web companies or marketing, it's not their actual money. Where now, like with me, it's like, hey guys, this is actually what I'm spending out of my money to get results. It just builds that trust. And the best part about it is everyone with marketing companies, they feel like they're getting screwed. Oh, that SEO guy doesn't do anything. Where, with us, I'm speaking the same lingo. I dumb it down so we understand it as contractors. You're like, oh, that makes sense. Here's the stats. This is this. Hey, why is this trending this way? And we don't use all crazy terms. We talk as contractors to each other. So, that end of our business is really great. But the biggest reason it was developed was because we had all these people in-house for our own company. And then all my friends were reaching out. They're like, hey, can you do it? So we're like, yeah, sure, why not? And then that turned into a 13-person marketing company now, but only for it. And everyone we work with is like, yeah, this is great because I care more about the relationship because similar to you, I'm here to help the industry that, hey, this isn't working great. Let's not do this. Let's go to here. Where I don't know if you've ever had a company, they just care about their money. Where us, we care about getting results because I'm going to see you at the Hardscape shows. I'm in the industry with you. So personally, we care more about building those relationships, but that wasn't profitable, right? We have to grow it. We have to get the clients. So reinvesting in that. We own Christmas Light Warehouse, where we sell all the Christmas lights for people that want to install. So it's christmaslightwarehouse.com. And then we have Christmas Mentor, which we teach you about Christmas lights. The reason I'm bringing all that up is they weren't profitable when they started. So we had to fund it to keep it going. So eventually it's profitable. But me personally, I'm all about what my future looks like. So we talked about this before, like a little off air, that I'm a futuristic person. That means I'm living in the 3 to 10 to 15 years from now. I told you earlier, we're going to sell our company. Like I'm already in that 10 to 15 year. We're building these things for later that will have that, profit now. Then I don't need profit now to survive. I'm making plenty of money. So now we're reinvesting it for the future growth. My team is so amazing. I need to grow this machine to be as big as possible for them so they have amazing opportunities. My brother-in-law is a part of the company. Everyone in his family is in the union. So all they said is, New York being in the union is like, it's great. Like I'm in the union. Me, I put this on my shoulder. I got to make sure he's going to make more money and have a better retirement than any opportunity he would have ever had with a union. So that's the pressure I put on myself. So we have to grow this monster so he could have that option also to live the lifestyle he wants to live. Same with Evo, Diego, Christina, all the people that are a part of our leadership team.
All right, so lots of questions here. Brace yourself here. I just want to take a break from today's episode to talk about our sponsor, Cycle CPA. You may have a CRM or project management software in place, but what data are you using to ensure your estimating is accurate? Having a proper accounting setup and accurate bookkeeping done is key to understanding overhead expenses and other costs that must be recouped in your estimates. Cycle CPA is a remote bookkeeping and CFO firm that helps to connect the dots from the financial reports to the hardscape and landscape data needed in order to reach high profits. They provide landscape and hardscape industry benchmarking, job costing financials by service line, advisory meetings, and much more. Cycle CPA's team of accountants are specialized within the hardscape and landscape industry, and you can visit them at cyclecpa.com, and for $200 off, mention the How to Hardscape podcast. Now back to our episode. Selling a company, a lot of people will look at a landscape company, and when it comes to them thinking about selling it or anything like that, it's just liquidating the assets essentially. There's
Yes.
nothing
Oh, yeah.
there to really purchase. What would there be to purchase of affordable patios down the road that makes
Okay.
it, more than just the equipment worth
Yeah,
it?
yeah. All right. So I actually have chills right now. I'm happy you asked this question. So I did landscaping, but we sold it. I sold my landscaping. I think I did it for 8 years. And so I did it for 8 years before I sold it, or 9 years. I sold it for $40,000 because that was what the equipment was worth. The 4 lawnmowers I sold with it were more than 40,000. And then that's when it really, really hit me that, oh man, imagine I was 50 years old or 60 years old and I was retiring and I only had 40 grand. Like that wouldn't even make any sense. That's when I read the book. I was already building affordable patio. We were already building everything, but that's when it really hit me. Built to Sell is a book about just your to-dos every day should be what your exit might be eventually, rather than staying small. So the reason our company is going to be worth as much, if you follow me on Instagram, Road to 100 M's, is my goal is to sell the company for $100 million. My to-do list every day is to eventually sell for $100 million. The thing is adding value to the clients, right, that we're installing patios for, add value to the contractors that are going to be installing the patios, but then also building this amazing brand. And that's where the money is the brand. And the reason I bring that up is if you were James's Masonry, it's really hard to build that brand around it. And that's what investors want, is a brand. AffordablePatio.com, you could just tell by the name, it's a brand. So people go, we're driving anywhere in one county, 3,000 people a week to our website. We have the best website in the whole entire industry. I'm a little biased. I just don't think anyone could have as good enough website. One, because we build it in-house. So I just don't think anyone would ever spend $120,000 on a website. Ours is in-house. So obviously we're not paying the full amount. Plus, we're chipping away at it each month. So it doesn't feel like that. So our website's our best salesman. A lot of guys we ask is, oh, who's your best salesman? They say, oh, I am. Where I'm like, well, If they find you online or find you on Facebook or they find you any marketing thing, your website should be your best salesman, because if they get turned off, they're never actually going to meet you. And that blows people's mind when I say that, because they have to meet the person right before. I kind of went off topic a little bit.
You're still there talking about the assets in your business that you would
Yep.
sell. So the website is a huge one.
Website, the present, we're opening up another branch in Florida in the next 3 weeks. And the reason is because of a brand. So our installation company is called Precision. That's in this county, but the brand is Affordable Patio. So when we go to different locations, the brand is Affordable Patio, and then the installation's a different one. Just because we don't want it to be tied in. So if something happens in Florida, it doesn't take the brand down. Similar to like an Angie's List or Home Advisor. But that's where it's worth it, because my company doesn't need me. So I'm able to travel and open up different branches, do all these other companies, is because as an investor, they want to be able to buy it and it runs without me because I don't own it anymore. So building the right systems, the right processes, and the right people in the right seats, that is what makes your company worth it. Brickman, I don't know if you know Brickman, or it used to be, it's Brightview now. They sold for $2 billion. So obviously it wasn't the assets, it was the brand and the contracts they had. But the private equity company could buy it because Mr. Brickman didn't run the company. The company ran itself.
Continuing with what you said there about creating another location in Florida, based on, affordable patios, why Florida, if I may ask?
Yep. So we got murdered last year because we had no snow. We did $4,700 in snow. My payroll over the winter is $11,000 a week. So just do the math. That we only paid a Monday to Wednesday for the whole winter. So one, we're moving to Florida because their booms of their season, their summer's too hot. So it's kind of a little slower. No one's hanging out outside. So their busy time is October, November to, let's say, April, May, because people are still working, but it's extremely hot. The other reason is, so we could go down there, the area we're doing is right below Tampa. All they have are little third of an acre properties. They can only do affordable patios.
Gotcha.
So the reason we picked that area are places that can only do the affordable patio. We don't want to do the big elaborate designs. Going back earlier, I can't be there at all times. So the area we picked, they are literally doing just fence to fence to fence. And that's all they can do. And obviously adding design might be in a little inlay or adding a fire pit. But to me, that's not like that's not a design. I don't need to be there to say, hey, do a 12 by 12, design.
Yeah.
And so that's the reason we picked that area, is for those two things. Where I have a couple of friends that live in Miami, Fort Lauderdale. Those are big, elaborate. Like, I wouldn't go there for affordable patio. I picked the spots I picked because of that. The houses that are anywhere from 300 to 600,000, they'll spend 12 to 15 grand on a patio. They are not spending $150,000 on a backyard, the pool. That's more than 50% of the value of their home.
Gotcha. So since we're on affordable patios, the name, why choose a name like that? Were you comfortable with being sort of pigeonholed into only doing affordable patios, and you're comfortable with that name? And why so?
So the reason I picked that name is my demographic, which I just told you earlier, are people that are only want to be spending $5 grand, let's just say, to like 20 or 30,000. Anytime you get over that, me or my COO is more needed to help in the operation. So I liked to figure out that name. And the reason was I come from absolute nothing. My dad was a mechanic. The reason I'm so driven and so hungry is because of what my parents had to go through about fighting because the refrigerator broke and they couldn't afford a new one. So that kind of made me who I am today. And I first made this doing all these elaborate things. My parents were so proud of me. I showed them this was many years ago, a 15 by 20 patio with a fire pit and a sitting wall. I think it was like $5,000 for everything. Again, a couple of years ago. The first thing my mom said was, oh, wow, that's affordable. I would consider to get it. So I created that name because a lot of people instantly thought it was too expensive. They had no idea. They never got estimates. They never researched it. in their mind, only the wealthy people had patios. So I created that name. So it drove the people to say, oh, maybe it is affordable. And then if you go on my website, our first version of our build price online, you actually could build out your patio on my website, add fire pits, and it tells you the price right on the spot. So that's where it came to be affordable, because we wanted to drive people to the website to see how they could actually afford it because of the way my parents reacted to it.
And then I'm sure you've had it in the past where you've done a project for somebody, they have a friend that sees it, but they want a more intricate design and they still want affordable patios to do it. Will you take on a project like that?
So we do. The only reason we don't get them a lot is the way we price everything. Sometimes we price ourselves out, not on purpose. It's just, well, our designs and our labor and our overhead, that I'm making this up, that like cool little inlay design is going to cost like $4,000 more. And the people are like, yeah, I don't need that design. Or another guy came in less.
Yeah.
So we'll do them. We don't get them often. The only reason we ever get them is because they're like, I don't think there's any company that's better than you guys. Gotcha. So they'll pay the additional. But me personally, I'm okay with it, but it uses a lot of my time. So we'll do them. But I think last year we did around like 228 patios or something like that. So in one county. The reason is because they're smaller, cookie cutters, more simple, easily duplicated. Those other ones ties up a little bit more of our time.
And with that pricing tool on the website, I was actually playing around with it just before we hopped on. It's really cool. Do you find that customers or clients are willing to go through and fill out that prior to reaching out to you? Or is this something that once they've reached out to you, you kind of lean them towards to go fill it out, see what it is? Which of those two or anything in between?
So you nailed it. So a lot of people fill it out and they see the price and then they're willing to call.
Okay.
Other people, if they're unsure, Christina always says, hey, definitely check out the website, kind of get a ballpark. And the reason is it eliminates the tire kickers or, oh, whoa, this is in my budget, whatnot. A lot of guys say, oh, what happens? Like, are they mad at you because the price that you're charging isn't the same as the website? If they're doing what's on the website, it's the same price. I'm making this up. If it's a 22 by 21, no, it's not the 20 by 20 price. Like, it's what that job is. We don't charge a square footage price. So everything that's on our website is the most bang for your buck, meaning you're going to get the most like efficiency, overhead, labor for that job. If we finish at 3 o'clock or 5 o'clock, my insurance is still the same. Everything is still the office, everything is still the same. So we don't charge, and I always get into debates with guys with this. We don't charge and by the hour. We don't nothing's by the hour for us, because if I finish at 3, I'm not calling my insurance and saying, hey, I only worked for 2 less hours. Is my auto less? It's the same price. So what we figured out was those were the best items to market. So, oh, wow, a 20 by 20 for X. But if you do a little bit more, it's going to be a lot more. But if you do a little less, it's still almost that price, because it'd just be the material offset. So the biggest things is driving them to it. After they book an estimate, Christina sends a playbook, and we create a whole entire playbook that gives customers jobs that we've done with prices that people have paid. So we're warming them up. My average estimate, I'm happy you're sitting down for this because it's going to probably blow your mind, is 8 minutes.
Yeah.
And the reason is they already know what they want. Our playbook has all the colors they could pick for jobs that already have that. So when I get there, we use Cambridge. They'll be like, oh, I like Onyx Natural, and I want to do a double border in coal. So I'm like, all right, cool. And then we just go over the measurements. And what's nice is we educate them so much before they come. Sometimes I'm going over our installation process. They're like, yeah, I already watched the video. I know you're going to put the RCA and you're going to compact that 2-inch lifts. And it puts like a grin on my face. I'm like, man, this is awesome. That's what separates us, because you called for an estimate. You just showed up. You called us. You're getting education. You're getting this. You're comparing things. So that's what really makes us stand out from all the others.
Gotcha.
So kind of tying it all in, it's the whole process.
With SEO, with your website, with other avenues where you're getting leads from, where do you find the best quality of the leads are coming from besides word of mouth? Putting that aside, where do you find that?
So 38% of our work is referral and word of mouth. Then everything's pretty equal. Google, Facebook, yard signs are really great. We do a lot of yard signs, but call to action, not branding yard signs. Branding yard signs will just say affordablepatio.com. Call to action is a 20 by 20 patio for X amount of money. They're not as qualified, but the signs only cost us $5-6. So like, your ROI is better on that. But obviously the word of mouth the best, but everything's pretty equal. But going back, this is what a lot of guys, when I talk to them about marketing, really gives them the information is I don't really care how much I spend on the marketing and the cost to get the acquisition of the customer. And the reason is I just told you 38% of our work is referral or repeat. So all those 38% at first was from an advertisement. So I'm on a call with someone last night and they're like, oh, what's like your acquisition cost? I'm like, I don't know. I think Facebook's like $400. It's costing us for that customer to do the work. So whatever, if we made $2,000 profit, it cost us, $400 out of the profit to get the client. But if that person refers us and we get a job, that 400 turns into 200. If that person refers us, now it turns into 100. And the people, when I tell them that, they're like blown away. We're in an infinite game. If you're not stopping, it doesn't really matter what your acquisition cost is currently if all your work is repeat and referrals.
Right.
So that's the way I look at it. A lot of my stuff is just not made up myself, but like what I believe. And I'm okay with spending that $600 or $700 on an acquisition cost because in 10 years, I don't know, that customer might have only cost me $10. And that referral cost me $0. So like, what is it better? That's why when we're doing 200-300 patios a season, people are blown away by that, is because it's 38% referral and repeat.
And then how do you foster those referrals from existing clients? Do you have anything that you do to kind of nudge them for referrals or anything like that?
We have a little different sales techniques. Like if people are interested in the patio, great. We don't like really do follow-ups. Like we'll do a follow-up. Like, hey, if you need anything, just let us know. We're here to help. Nothing else. And the reason is we treat this how I would want to be. If I wanted to move forward with you, like I want to move forward with you. I don't need you to hound me. When people hound me, I don't want to work with them, even if they were the cheapest, even if they were the best. I just feel like, you're too pushy. So that's how we are. What we do is, and this is a great tip for anyone, people always ask, hey, can you do a little better on the price? Or like, hey, is there a little bit of a discount? We made up something called the 50-50-50. $50 off if you become a Facebook friend or a social media friend. $50 off if you leave a Google review. $50 off if you tag your job and post us. The reason is now we're always fresh in their mind because we're always doing stories and we're posting content. And then they'll easily refer us. And from your experience, how many times have you been on a job that someone did a walkway many years ago and they say, I don't even remember who did that job. So we're always fresh. And then I'm okay to give them that $150 off because like that cost is minuscule. Now I have the review. Now I have always being followed. Plus one of their friends saw that we did their job. Mrs. Jones isn't posting every day. So it kind of lives on their page for a little bit longer than most.
Right. Absolutely. And
those are like little tips, that we do.
Yeah, that just goes back into marketing. And like you were saying, if that $150 turns into another lead, that's, half that. So
it's minuscule. Like if I told you, hey, I'm going to get you a job for $150, you'd be like, yeah,
absolutely.
Where do I pay? I'll keep giving you as much money as possible.
Absolutely.
So one thing with us, and you could tell, is I'm big on marketing. I enjoy it. That's one of the things that I'm into. And I love having the customers have amazing experience.
You work hard to build a successful business. And because of this, it is important to work with companies that you can trust, rely on, and whose missions are to give you the highest quality product and customer support. Low voltage outdoor lighting is one of the easiest ways for you to grow your business and increase revenue. Using lighting can make you more profit, add that wow factor, and make your business stand out. Whether you are already using outdoor lighting in your hardscape projects or not, it's time you check out InLight outdoor lighting. As a professional hardscaper, we know that you need efficient installs, less callbacks, and premium products to have a successful and growing business. Inlight's got you covered. They've created some of the most premium and unique lighting on the market to make your project stand out and wow your clients with their unmatched light quality. It gets better. Inlight has an unbeatable customer support team, provides many educational resources like online and in-person training, installation videos, and so much more. They care about your business growth and will be with you every step of the way. For more information on how Inlight can help you grow your business, check them out on Instagram at Inlight Design. That's at INLITE Design on Instagram. DM them to find out how to put more money in your pocket this season. Now back to the podcast. Okay, I've got so many notes here, James, that I'm just trying to follow the proper progression through this.
Yeah.
But I do want to go back to your story. Going back to the beginning of the interview, and when you sat down with that gentleman in the backyard and you realized that your sweet spot were these patios, these affordable patios, what was your next step from there in terms of hiring, in terms of building your business? What were those initial steps that sort of snowballed into where you are today?
So, all right. So we figured this all out. Then I sat down at my Mason Supply. Biggest recommendation is get close with your Mason Supply people because they're in there. They understand. They could help you. So Steve ran the Mason Supply place. He was a friend of mine from the industry. When I started creating Affordable Patio, he turned into my best friend. He's one of my groomsmen at my wedding because we kind of built this together. And he was excited because he's like, no one's doing this. So he was all for helping. So we sat down, we figured out what's the most profitable thing I could sell, how the pallets break down to be the most profitable thing. So in Florida, everything's sold by the pallet. Here in New York, you could buy it by the layer or by the band. Well, you don't want to throw half a pallet away or not charge for that half a pallet. So we figured all that stuff out. Then we did this. Then we started marketing. We started getting some traction. Then it was like, all right, who's going to help with this? And then keep building it out. Our office obviously was a lot better now because they were only dealing with one type of phone call. So they knew everything, what to say, because people would be like, what's the base? What is this? What is that? So they understood it. When we did landscaping, seal coating, mulch, planting, how would the office help be able to answer all these random questions? So it's streamlined. Now our employees got even better because they were all just doing the same thing. I keep jumping around, but our landscaper that cut the lawns, that was the best on the lawnmower that knew the route. If he got sick, guess what? Me or Gio had to be on the truck because no one knew it. Now it's very easy because everyone's doing the same thing. I am the McDonald's of the patio industry where guess what? Someone doesn't make it in McDonald's. You just press this buzzer and then in 15 seconds, the bun will come out and then you give it to the customer.
Absolutely.
There's nothing wrong with being the McDonald's or being the high-end steakhouse. The problem is when you don't know who you are.
Yes.
So I like doing the crazy, beautiful designs, but me as a person, I like scaling and growing something is more important than me. I told you offline, my backyard is incredible. I love doing the design, but I wouldn't want to do that every day because it's very draining on me. And my calling is to grow and scale. And I love that business end of it.
I think that sort of answers my next question for you here. And it's something that we kind of talked about offline really quick was my background starting a low overhead business to get started in this lift and relay space. And I felt like that could be a sustainable way, a scalable way to grow a business because it's just picking up and putting back down. I got burnt out of that, hated doing that, transitioned to design build and sort of continue to do a little bit of both there, which it could be, I don't know what I'm supposed to be too, but that putting that aside, James, my question for you from that is if you are doing, not design work and perhaps that's not where your passion is, where is your passion? Where do you get up every morning and want to work as hard as you do for affordable patios? What is that fire inside of you if it's not that design work and that?
So again, I love design.
Yes.
Me personally. But the only thing is I can't tie up my time. And doing the design, I understood it tied up a lot of my time. So there's a book called E-Myth. It's awesome. You're either the entrepreneur, the manager, or the technician. So technician is the artist. So there's nothing wrong with being any three of those. The only thing that's wrong is when you're trying to wear all the hats. If you love, so I could be wrong, but what you're saying is you loved being the artist and creating these masterpieces. Well, it's really hard to create these masterpieces and then grow a great, efficient business because you're so in love with the art. So what I recommend for someone in that predicament would be maybe you hire a CEO or someone in that position that keeps driving the company forward, and you could still do that beautiful art. I would be okay with that if I could find someone that has much passion and fire as me to be the CEO. Me personally, I found it was easier to be that person and hire someone to, like my brother-in-law, to be the more COO who's running the operation. So again, I am all for the design, the artist, but for me, it wasn't fulfilling me. And what you said was beautiful. You have to be happy. When you're happy, the money follows. If you're miserable, you could have as much money in the world and it doesn't mean anything because you're miserable. So me chasing the growth, giving all these people around me, one, reaching my dreams, but I'm reaching their dreams. We do workshops with my team and like, hey, Evo, what's your dream car? He's like, I don't know. He never thought that big. I'm like, well, I want you to start thinking about it. A week later, he comes back. He's like, I want an Audi R8. I'm like, let's go. How can we create this to be able to get you that dream car? Where the week prior, he never thought he would ever get a car like that. He does not have a car like that. But what we're thinking is, how do we do this to create something that could get you these dreams? Anybody that's in this industry that I talk to, anyone that works for me, I want to have the biggest building in the city, and I want them to have the biggest building. I don't want to be by myself up there. I want to be on it. I want to have a yacht. I want to be on the yacht with you because you're successful and you have the same amount of money to be on the yacht with me and not saying, hey, James, I can't go with my family because we can't afford it. I want to make sure that everyone next to me is all at the top so we all live this beautiful life together.
So, James, why do you think people stick to or start working or, you retain employees at Affordable Patios?
Yeah. So people are blown away by like our hiring process and the amount of people. I think in the spring for installation, we get anywhere from 80 to 90 applications. And the reason is two things. When I went earlier, we have a brand. You show up, we have an office. Every guys get gloves. Every guys get waters, pencils, knee pad. Everything's there at the office. We have a full-time shop with mechanics fixing all the guys' trucks. So when something breaks, they bring it in, they take the backup in a week or a day or two, it's fixed. Then the other thing is, and this is something that everyone should think about. My dream is so big, everyone else's dreams could fit inside mine. So I'm dreaming so big that if someone was like, wow, I really want to, I want to get into the patio industry, but I don't want to make someone else rich. Well, guess what? I'm looking to take over the whole industry. So you can be a patio installer in my dream and you'll reach your dreams. And we're stronger together than we are apart. And one thing I always use as an example is like number 30 at Facebook still makes $5 million a year. And they don't own Facebook, but I bet you they would never want to own Facebook. So getting the right people around you, creating the right seat for that person. Quick experience share. My first office people, I just hired and said, here's the phone, answer it. Guess what? They only lasted a couple of months and the business felt it because they didn't know what to do. No system, no process. So creating the right seat, figuring it out, and then being able to create that seat so when you hire, you know what position they should be in.
Absolutely. So, James, I've got 4 more questions here for you that I ask everybody that comes on the show. I hope we're not going over your time. I hope you're good there. But
Yeah,
4 more questions. Feel free to take as long or as little time on them as possible here. The first one we'll go to equipment and installation practices. So you need to be a well-oiled machine, get in, get out for you to make the profit that you want to make. Do you have any equipment that really helps in your area? Any tools that you stick to? That could be in the office, in the field, installation, but whatever you want to talk about there.
All right. Amazing questions. Everyone I talk to and do interviews with, they're blown away on how fast the hour goes.
Yes.
One, I'm from New York, so I speak really, really fast, but I give a lot of info. So tools that change every job needs a skid steer on it. Obviously, depending on like if you only have 4 feet to get by, then no. But every single crew will do a little walkway. There's a skid steer there because the 20 seconds of taking it out of the machine, out of the truck versus by hand cost a lot. Loading up the dirt or the concrete in a bucket and putting it in the truck versus trying to do it by hand. So we have a skid steer on every job, a zip level, game changer. We used to use transit. We used to do all this stuff. Only reason I don't like it is it's not scalable. And the reason is you need two people or you need guys that know what they're doing. Hey, with a zip level, I could do it over the phone. Go to 0, and on a 20-foot patio, I want a 2-inch pitch, 2.5. When it hits -2, mark it on the pin. All right, thank you. We do job site cameras. I might be one of like the only guys in the industry doing this stuff. We have cameras on every single one of the jobs, so we don't have to call and bother the guys to see what they're up to. So like right now, I could pull up every single crew and see what they're up to. A lot of guys say, "Oh, my guys are going to get mad. They don't want us to watch it." Well, then you don't run a great business. I don't need a camera to see if the guys are working. I know how much they should get done in a day. Like I've been doing this. We document, we job track every job. So how much we estimated material versus how much the material actually was, how long it took, how much the dump was to the T. I don't need the cameras for that. I need the cameras because we have delivery people. We need to see what they're up to. Oh, they need more base. Oh, they need more brick. And I know, from experience, calling the guys, stopping them, having them pull out their phone, having a saw going on and them just yelling because they can't hear, it wasn't efficient enough. So now we have the job site cameras. And then we also use Slack, which is a free messaging app. And each crew communicates. So, hey, I need 2 more layers of brick. The driver, whoever's the closest, will say, I got it. And they'll go. A lot of guys with scalability, the owner gets that phone call. Then he has to dispatch it out. Where with Slack, it's everyone who needs to be in that conversation can dispatch themselves. So I would say those are the biggest things. And I have this all on my Instagram, all these tips and everything in that aspect.
Gotcha. Yeah, I've never heard that camera thing before. Do you have any brand or typical
So
camera that you use there?
yeah, we use Arlo, and it's through Verizon. So you got
Okay.
to think I pay $20 a month, and it has its own cell service. So it doesn't
Hmm.
need Wi-Fi, it doesn't need anything. And then we just set it up there. Our guys set it up
Yeah.
because we don't bother them. Like there's nothing. We're not watching them. They're not worried about it. Like, guess what? If they're sitting under the tree because it's hot, we're not like, get up, you got to work. Hey, you guys are killing it. I don't need the camera to tell me if you guys were killing it or not. So Arlo by Verizon, but I think everyone has it. But for the $20 a month, it's literally a no-brainer.
Gotcha. Do you have any mentors, online, offline, anybody that you look to, whether that's for inspiration, business advice, but any mentors here, James, that you'd want to share with us?
So in our industry, not crazy amount, and that's why I try to do all this. There's great guys like you and I've Preston that does all these cool designs, and I love modern design. So like all you guys are amazing for that. I don't know in our industry if there's anyone that's kind of doing the business end that I do, but big time people is like I like Grant Cardone, I like Gary V, I like Tony Robbins. My personal friend about my story, his name is Grow by Joe. So he's someone who's my personal mentor who changed my whole business. And then honestly, getting groups like this and just get around like-minded people and every day just try to get 1% better. And then just keep getting better and getting better. And honestly, it's crazy because people always ask me, how do you find these mentors? I'm like, if you're trying to be better every day, they'll find you because like I'm down to help anyone if they want to be better. If they're just looking for a handout, then no, I'm not trying to help them. That's how I have all these amazing people around me is because I'm inspiring them and they're inspiring me. So it's an even trade.
I think we kind of covered this at the very beginning, but feel free to expand upon it or add a different story. But it's a question that I ask everybody that comes on the show that's a business owner, because I'm sure we've all experienced something, but that's a horror story that you've experienced in your time in business. And the reason why I ask this is because we do have a lot of listeners that are just starting up for their first time, starting their own business or wanting to. And just to prepare them for what can happen, maybe put barriers in place to prevent this from happening. But James, do you have a horror story from your time in business that you'd want to share?
So not one. having an ego. No one has it figured out, right? Like I'm this big successful guy that does millions and millions and millions in revenue and have all these separate businesses. My businesses run without me. I get to go and do vacation if I want. I love my business. So like I'm always working because that's what I love to do. So the biggest things that I could recommend, it's not really like a horror stories because you're going to all go through it. Systems and processes. Don't think you have an ego that you're the guy that's figured it out, or you're the guy that could figure it out without anyone helping, because then there wouldn't be college. There wouldn't be, the world wouldn't be what it is today. Ask for help, be vulnerable. And the biggest thing is with growth, you're going to make X. So let's just say 100 grand. Then you're going to try to scale. It drops down. You're going to make 70. And that's where you say, and you've heard this 100 times, bigger isn't better. Guess what? Bigger is better. You're just under that growth thing. Then you'll come back up. You'll pass your 100. You'll be at 200 and then 300. But the worst part is you're going to drop down again and start to make 200. And you're going to say, this sucks. But you've got to keep pushing through. When you go to the gym, guess what? You get sore. It's so weird. This is what I was telling you about earlier about stating the obvious. You do this every day at the gym. But when it comes to your business, you're like, no, I don't want that pain. I don't want that. You got to push through to get stronger. Now we have transmissions that blow and I smile and everyone's like, yo, like, I can't believe you're so calm and collective. I'm like, I remember when I couldn't fix that transmission. So now when it blows and it's $6 grand or $7 grand, whatever it is, I have a little smirk because it's like, wow, this feels good that we pay for this stuff and it's all in-house. So push through and also figure out what you want. When you don't know what you want, you get very lost in the sauce. So what we talked about earlier about you, and it's a great experience share, figure out that what makes you happy, perfect that, and then the money will always follow.
Absolutely. Perhaps this was touched on with that answer, but my final question to you, James, here is, what's one thing you know now that you wish you knew from the very beginning? And this could be personal related, this could be business related, but what's that one thing you know now you wish you knew from the very beginning?
Know your numbers. Understand overhead, asset depreciation, working days. Quick tip on working days. The days that you're producing revenue is how you should be paying your overhead. So if your truck is $10,000 a year, it's not divided by 365. It's divided by the amount of days that you're producing revenue. So those are like the biggest things. And then what I talked about earlier, dream big. Dream what you could possibly do. People underestimate what they could do in a year. Overestimate what they could do in a year and underestimate what they could do in 5. Look where you were 5 years ago and look where you are today. So keep grinding and be around the right people, be in groups like yours, surround yourself with great people and just keep getting better every single day.
James, this has been a great wide-ranging interview. Thank you for putting up with my questions that were not in sequential order whatsoever. But James, where can our audience go find out more about you? Where do you want to direct them to? Anything that you want to leave them with here?
So they could go on my Instagram. It's called Road to 100 M's. So Road to 100 million. I have all free content, everything I put on there. I'm not like selling things. I have a marketing company, patioseo.com. You guys could check that out. But again, I'm here to provide value and help the industry similar to you. And that's why I wanted, to connect with you and like, let's make this industry better. So Instagram, Road to 100 M's. You could check out affordablepatio.com. That's just an installation end, or patioseo.com.
Perfect. James, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, buddy. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to today's podcast episode. If you enjoyed it, go follow James Reed there at Road to 100 M's. That's 100 MS. And if you really enjoy this podcast, I'd really appreciate a rating and review. If you're on Apple Podcasts, that really helps us get this podcast out there into more people's ears. It really does help quite a bit. So if you haven't done so already, really appreciate a rating and review on Apple, and on Spotify, it is just a rating system there. These really do help. And I've noticed we've been getting more ratings on Apple and on Spotify, so I do really appreciate that help. And I've been reading reviews from Apple, and I'll continue this here with this one from Quality Fence Builder. This has helped me in a huge way. 5 stars. I have been hesitant leaving my day job to pursue starting my own landscaping business. It went from side jobs to being fully self-employed. I will continue to use and listen to How to Hardscape to help keep me on track and point me in the right direction to be successful. Thank you so much for that written review there. Another one here from Eagles Nester. Much needed coverage, 5 stars. It's good to have a devoted podcast that focuses on the hardscaping industry. Great work. Thank you so much there. And finally, another one here from Obacker19. Empowering, insightful, and actionable is the title of this one. 5 stars. Whether you're well established as a hardscaper or just getting started carving out a profitable niche that's ready to grow, this is a must-listen podcast for you. Michael does an incredible job leading conversations that cover a huge breadth of topics related to the ins and outs of building a thriving business and life you could be proud of from leaders who've actually experienced success themselves. Highly recommend listening and subscribing. Thank you so much there to everybody that's left a rating or review. And if you are looking for accounting, bookkeeping, or CFO services, reach out to Cycle CPA at cyclecpa.com. Let them know How to Hardscape sent you for $200 off their services there. And InLight Outdoor Lighting, if you're looking to add outdoor lighting to your services, to your hardscape business, give them a follow at InLight Design on Instagram. That's INLITE Design. Get some inspiration there, or send them a message to get that conversation started on how you can add outdoor lighting to your hardscaping business. And we look forward to meeting with you next week on the How to Hardscape podcast.